Hello, hello, hello out there. Today's the Sabbath, drawing near to the end of the Sabbath, and this morning I woke up, and I'm always telling God I'm awake. What's the mission of the day? What's the concept of the operation? And I'm thinking around, and he said, well, about Lazarus, how people are people, and we have to put a little flesh and blood on these people. And I was thinking, uh, and Lazarus had died. And I can read that to you. Lazarus had died, and his sister came and had mentioned, somebody come and mentioned to Jesus, your friend Lazarus had passed away. And Jesus more or less just said, okay, we'll take care of it. People have a hard time figuring that out. Anyway, when he finally made up his mind that he was going to go, a couple of the Thomas said, well, I'll go with him. An odd thing about, people think that all 12 apostles for 3.5 years picked up everything, left everybody at home, and they just picked up and followed him for a continuous 3.5 years. Well, that wasn't the case. It couldn't have been the case because people had jobs, people had responsibilities at home. For instance, Jesus was said to have been a lowly carpenter. Well, he couldn't have been a lowly carpenter because he had duties and responsibilities. He had a mother, he had a couple of brothers, and he even had some sisters. They were his siblings. They were younger than he was. Father had set him up in a small contracting business, is what it was. In those days, you not only had to build the house, but you had to lay the foundation too. So you had to have some which rocks, which material they're going to use. Anyway, when Jesus lived in Nazareth, and I guess his family was there, and he had to take care of these people. So when the time had come for him to start his ministry, he uh, he put things in order. I'm sure his mother was going to be taken care of. I'm not sure how old his family was, but they had a little business going. And so Jesus started his ministry. Now, he didn't start it down in Jerusalem. He went up to Galilee. Galilee was traditionally what was left over for the Benjamites. The tribe of Benjamin couldn't come back to their original area, so they had to sort of leapfrog above Manasseh and go on up into the Galilee. And along the way, Jerome says that Paul was a Galilean. He certainly admits to being a Benjamite. Those are just little things of putting flesh and blood on the scriptures. Anyway, I'm going to read to you here in John 11. Now, I'm telling you why I'm reading this to you. I've mentioned before my studies and my training in hypnosis. One of the things is that whether you believe it or not, your subconscious never forgets anything. It's all there: smells, tastes, hearing what you've heard. You may have a hard time recalling it, but it's all there. Dr. Maltz, psychocybernetics, we're pretty sure of this. And in hypnosis, some of the things that we attempt to do is we'll take a person back to that event that their subconscious they have been living with, and we can either do away with it or we can help them explain why they saw when they were 3 years old, they saw their parents fighting, and they, especially ladies, they've thought that that has affected their lives subconsciously, whether they know it or not. Anyway, you have your conscious mind. This whole series, though, today I watched this guy called AJ and Hecklefish. My wife just happens to have a voice like Hecklefish. Anyway, you look him up, AJ and Hecklefish. A very interesting kind of guy, and and he's got money. And his specialty is doing voiceovers and things like that. But the guy's no dummy. Anyway, we're going to go back here in the Bible, in the book of John. And it says the death of Lazarus. It says, now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus, of Bethany. Bethany is a little ways towards the Jordan. There's four Bethanies. There's one where John baptized. Anyway, they lived. Their family was in Bethany, uh, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Martha which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Now, all of this right now is going into your memory bank, whether you know or not. So, if you've never read the Bible, later on, 6 months from now, some minister mentions Lazarus, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I heard that before. Didn't pay much attention to it, but I'll try to make it interesting enough that you do pay attention to it. Therefore, his sisters sent unto him, saying, the Lord Christ, Messiah, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. So he was sick, and they told him he was going to be sick because they always knew that Christ could come and heal him. They all expected him to. When Jesus heard this, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. That stops a lot of people right there. It's saying he's disinterested, or he's thinking about himself. Well, you watch and see, you read the whole story. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister, Mary, and Lazarus. So he must have known these people. They must have been more than just a casual, because Lazarus invited him to eat once in a while when they were in the area. When he had heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days in the same place where he was. That gets him going. Oh, you don't care? Then after that saith he unto his disciples, let's go up into Judea again. You got to go up into that area. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in a day? Oh, wait a second. His disciple, Thomas, we learned later on, Master or Rabbi, Teacher, the Jews of late sought to stone you. You have to read in John 10. They were always trying to nail him. Goest thou? Are you going out there again? That was Thomas that said that. So he said, there's 12 hours in the day. If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of the world. But a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. He was always answering with a parable of some kind that people had a hard time understanding. Then another disciple said, look, Lord, he's asleep. He'll wake up, he'll do okay. Howbeit Jesus spoke of his death, but not through that. He had spoken of talking about the rest in sleep, that you're resting in sleep. Elsewhere in the scriptures it said the damsel and Peter's mother, when you die you sleep. You don't go directly to heaven. You don't go directly to hell. You sleep. Otherwise, why would there need to be a judgment day? What's to judge? So, Then Jesus said unto them, Lazarus is dead. He straightened that out. He said, no, he's dead. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. He's saying, look, if I would have been there, I probably would have raised him right away, and you would have said, well, no big deal. No, I'm telling you, the man is dead. All right? So let's go and see. Don't forget, God is going to glorify him. He's going to tell us that later on. And he will glorify God through the miracles that God allows him to do. So anyway, it starts out, I am the resurrection and the life. Then when Jesus came, finally, after 2 days, 3 days, he got sick, he died on the fourth day. She tells him later on he's been dead 4 days now. Then when he came, he found that he had been laid in a grave for 4 days already. Now we find later on he's in a sepulcher. Now if Lazarus would have been this poor individual, very few people could have a sepulcher hewn out and then have a way to close it. You know, that wasn't an easy thing to do in those days, and not everybody had one. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs. It's about a good half a day's walk, you know. Greek infantry could do 15 kilometers in a day, fully loaded, and that was a pretty good kick. Alexander had them do 40 in one day, going to one of the battles. And many of the Jews, now these are the regular Jews, and Lazarus was a Jew. Everybody had probably gone to the synagogue. Many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Now the community was interested in this, and they were comforting, you know, because everybody figured he is dead. You know, he was a loss. You don't know what they were all probably had a business of some kind. They had money. There's no doubt about that. Remember when Mary wanted to wash Jesus' feet, and she used this very expensive lotion, and that Judas Iscariot said, "Why do you want to waste the money on that? We could have given it to the poor," because he was the one that had the money bag, which the scriptures say he would dip into every now and then. Anyways, then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went to meet him. She actually went out to meet him. But Mary sat still in the house. Duties, responsibilities, I don't know. Then said Martha unto Jesus, and this is what the Lord brought to me this morning, how odd we are, even when you believe. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother would not have died. Why do you wait so long? By now he stinketh. He had an odor about him. Is that going to be our attitude when Jesus comes? And our friends and our neighbors, our relatives had passed away. Lord, if you would have been here, you know, they wouldn't have died. No. That's our job. That's our job, to give the gospel to these people. At least they've got a chance. They'll die. Yeah, we'll die. I expect to be changed in the twinkling of an eye. I expect to go to sleep. And Hecklefish, my wife Sharon, who are going to be buried side by side. Anyway, that's the thing. That was the laughing that came to me is that going to be our attitude? Lord, if you were always asking for the Lord to come quickly, Lord. Things are really going to hell in a handbasket. How are we going to have this? Why did you wait so long, Lord? For the glory of God, you'll see things that you just don't have the capacity to believe. But anyway, that's what brought it to me this morning, the story of Lazarus. And now you have heard the story of Lazarus. Let's continue. But I know, here's one thing she did know. I know that even now, whosoever thou wilt ask of God, God will grant thee or give you. Jesus said unto her, thy brother shall rise again. Now she's going to answer this now. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection. That's what they were preaching then. The Jews at that time didn't believe in a resurrection. Many of them didn't. You have the Pharisees, the lawyers of the law, and you had the Sadducees, and they didn't believe in a resurrection. So that's why they were sad, you see. Anyway, Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection, I am the life. He that believeth in me, or on me, or through me, though he be dead, yet shall he live. I expect to live again. You, if you have an idea and faith in this Christ, this Savior, the one who is going to save us, you will live again. Don't forget there's two resurrections. One to the resurrection of life, and the others to a resurrection of disappearance. You know. And whomsoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believeth thou this, Mary? Do you believe this? And she's just said, I do. And he's just backstopping it. You believe that, don't you? And she said, well, she says, yes, I do. She said unto the Lord, yea, I believe thou. I believe you. Art thou the Christ, the Son of God, which shall come into the world? That was pretty well down pat. But we're human. Shortest item in the Bible is Jesus wept. Now, he didn't bawl. He says, once in a while you'll go down like this and you'll have a tear, you know. When she said so, she went her way. Okay, she went back to be with Mary and called Mary, but she called Mary because Mary was at home, her sister secretly, saying, the master is come and calleth for you. So apparently he said, go get Mary. I want you all to see what this is going to be all about. And soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town. Don't forget, or she had gone out there to see him, to greet him, bring him in. But was in the place where Martha met him. He stayed there. He tarried, as they say in Old English. The Jews then, which were with her, they were gathered around her in the house. They were having an Irish wake. The difference between an Irish wedding and an Irish wake is what? I don't know, one less drunk. I hope I don't. I've had a few good drinks with a few good Irishmen. Jesus was not yet come to the town, but was in the place where Martha had met him. The Jews which had come with her in the house, comforting her, and when they saw Mary had gotten up, and she rose up hastily, quickly, went out. They all, let's say, what's going on? They followed her out, saying, she goeth unto the grave to weep there, to mourn. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. Here again, Mary said the same thing. You know, Lord, if you just were here. You know, we want to push the envelope here. You know, God will return Jesus will return after God had said, you stay here for a minute and I'll make your enemies ashes under your feet and I'll turn the world upside down. I got a couple of things to do here before you return. Jesus, he has a sword and his vestment is going to be covered in blood and he's going to be on a white horse. It doesn't say he's going to be hacking and a hewing. It doesn't say we are going to be hacking and a hewing. No, it says on that day his foot shall stand, Zechariah 4:14, shall stand on the Mount of Olives, and then they say that shall split. So you're going to have a lot of readjustments to the earth. Otherwise, how could it keep all these other, when Israel and when the Christians all come back and we're supposed to redo the earth for 1,000 years anyway. Okay, when Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in his spirit. It said, oh, Father. It hurt him. It hurt him. It hurt him that people, we don't know about death. If death is, you're gone. You know, it's as good as you never were here, except for people that remember you. There's the old saying, a man is never dead as long as as others remember him, right? That's why we should leave some good remembrances. Okay, so he said, where have you laid him? Now, if this was the Christ, he would have known all this, but he was human. You know, he was on his own until he called the Father's Spirit into him. He told these people numerous times, I don't do any of these things except through the Spirit of God. Through the Spirit of God. And you won't do anything either unless it's through the Spirit of God. As Christ is like a sensei, a great kung fu master. He'll show you the moves, but you've got to have the woo to get it done, right? I'm talking to you, some of you out there. So, behold, he who loved him. Some said could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, they know that because just a couple of chapters ahead, he opened a man that was blind from birth, have caused even this man should have died? They're thinking, hey, he's not did the right thing. He's going to show him a real trick here, but he said, well, if he was around here and he loved him so much, he could have stopped him from dying. Here's the good part, though. Lazarus rises. Jesus raises. Raises, past tense. Lazarus. Jesus, therefore, again groaning within himself, cometh to the grave, the sepulchre. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, take away the stone. He didn't take it away. He says, you guys, take it away. Okay, they took it away. From the place where the dead was lain. Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, now this is what you've got to get. Jesus didn't say any of this before he checked in with the Father. He said, Father, I thank thee, and thou hast heard me. I know that thou hearest me always, but because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. Now these are the miracles that Jesus did had a purpose. I know that thou hast heard me. Okay, that may believe me. Now, when he thus had spoken, he cried out with a loud voice, just the same way the archangel is going to cry out with a loud voice. Lazarus, come forth. And he that was deemed dead came out, bound hand and foot with grave clothes. Even the Islamics, you're supposed to bury a person and you wrap them and you put some nice smelling ointment on it. So that had all been done. And his face was bound about with a napkin, just as Jesus had been. The odd thing about Jesus, when they went in there and looked at his tomb, he said that the grave clothes had been folded and the napkin had been set aside. Talk about being struck. Okay, bound with a napkin. Jesus said unto them, Loose him and let him go. Now, it wasn't right for a Jew to touch any dead thing, you know. Well, obviously, this was alive, so he had to get those clothes off of him, you know. And then, okay, we've gone through with Lazarus and what occurred in that regard. Uh, the rest of it, I'm not going to read you, but it is in John 11, and they finish it up there. And for everything that he'd done here, they called him and they tried to kill him again for having done this. All right. Anyway, I've done my job today. It's in John 11. Start out at the end of 10, read into 11, and go all the way to the end of 11. And there you've had the word today. I've read it to you. You've heard it. It's in your subconscious now. If the Spirit of God wants to bring this to you, if He wants to start working with you, you've got at least one of Jesus' miracles. All right? Yeah. Wait a second here. I got to come back up. Okay, here we go. Wait a second. I got to come back up. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Don't forget to look up AJ and Hecklefish. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's on YouTube. Bye for now. Have a good Sabbath.